I'm really cool. All I wanna do is impress you with my mouse trap. All I wanna do is convince you with my cheese. All I wanna do is be the coolest cat here, but I'll need some more super breed. Just watch me, mouse. Just watch me catch you. Just watch me, mouse. Just watch me catch you, catch you, catch you. All I wanna do is impress you with my mouse trap. All I wanna do is convince you with my cheese. All I wanna do is be the coolest cat here, but I'll need some more super breed. Oh, but I need some more super breed. Oh, but I need some more super breed.
Hello, MouseHunt. Welcome to Feedback Friday. Today is a day in October. It is October 30, 2020. October is almost behind us here. How's everybody in the chat doing today? Hello, everyone. Hello, hello. There are 63 people joining us. Well, hello to everybody. Move my chat a little bit here. Hello, KDM, Lamb, Diamond, Sally, Salim, Lawrence. Hello, Day. Hello, Jason. Hello, everyone so strong. Aaron says hello. Happy Halloween. Well, happy Halloween back to you as well. Get ready tomorrow. I have my bowl of candy ready. I hope you have your bowl of candy at the ready as well. Maybe some scary movies and the one time a year where you probably eat too much candy. Although I guess there's other seasons as well where candy is around in some abundance, but unlike Halloween. Mike says, a tourney starting in 2 minutes and the live stream just began. Life doesn't get much better than that. Well, glad to hear it. Thanks for joining us. Good day, Dave. Hello. Well, today I was going to give everybody a little update, little behind the scenes sneak peek. Update what the dev team is currently actively working on at the moment, which at the moment it is 3 different projects we got on the go at the same time. First is the Halloween shutdown. So just kind of wrapping that up. The Halloween event end will come to an end this coming Tuesday. That is November 3, unless I'm being as notoriously bad with dates as I so frequently am. I'm going to go ahead and look at a calendar. Yes, November 3 is Tuesday. I am fairly confident I'm not screwing up a date again. So when November 3 comes and the Halloween event shuts down, it'll probably be about the same time Feedback Friday goes live, right about now. There will be a 1-week shutdown phase where you're going to be able to claim rewards still, but you can't fire cannonballs. You can't earn any progression. You can't earn new spooky supplies, but you'll be able to cash out what you have for 1 week. When that comes to an end after that 1 week, then basically everything to do with Halloween is gone. So make sure you check out the shop and cash out what you're interested in before that comes. That Apple mic, yeah, this is my attempt at using perhaps a better microphone than my laptop usually starts to overheat at some point from encoding video, and the CPU fan tends to be the majority of what you can hear. So I should probably just get a nice external mic one day. I think I've been saying that for a considerable amount of time, but one day it'll be coming. The other thing we have on the go as well, and we are kind of wrapping everything up today, a little bit of a photo finish here. I had a couple little tweaks that came up during testing and QA that we're still looking to address, but we're all going to, I'm thinking when I'm done with this, or maybe even this afternoon, dev team's going to get on a call. We're just all going to kind of make sure everyone's on the same page and work through everything. But that is Relic Hunter Season 8. So it's just around the corner. We're planning to launch that on November 3 as well. So it'll be the same update that ends the Halloween event or starts the shutdown phase for Halloween. It will launch Relic Hunter Season 8. So there's still a few days left to earn those Season 7 rewards if you haven't already, before there are new limited edition rewards added as part of Season 8. I can hear you so much better with the mic. All right, glad to hear, Sally. I shall continue. I don't know why I didn't think of this earlier. Whenever I do, video chats and the like for work, I tend to put on my headphones so that there isn't kind of feedback of the other people talking. I guess during Feedback Friday, it's nothing's coming out of my speaker, so I don't worry about it as much. But that's good to hear. It's a better mic. So there'll be 2 new limited edition rewards coming. One is called the Forecaster Base, and that will increase the speed in which weather change in Mausu Picchu occurs. So all normal rules apply, so it depends on the type of cheese you have armed, but it'll increase how much those progress bars move. So you can increase the weather effect a little bit quicker. That said, once it's maxed, you might want to switch out to another base depending on your strategy there. The second limited edition reward for Season 8 is the Thief Base, and this one's kind of interesting. It's for use in Zokor, and it has 2 modes on it. You can leave it in Thief mode or Heist mode. One mode has a 50% chance of not losing stealth while you're in Zokor, so you can stay in Zokor longer. The other mode causes you to lose twice as much stealth, but also doubles the district loot drops as well. So you can get kind of, in a way you can think of it, you're getting the same amount of loot drops, but in a shorter amount of time. So it comes down to how fast you go through the labyrinth might determine which mode you're going to be most interested in. Picks, please. Well, it's just around the corner. We'll save the spoilers until next Tuesday. I'll be able to check out what they look like. They do look neat, though. The Forecaster Base, has a little. I think Franco gave some art direction suggestions to the art team. It's got like a little weather station, or one of those wind meters that you see sometimes on the top of a bridge. It's in the case in the Thief and the Thief Base. I think Jacob drew that on a live stream. So if you load up a previous Art Edition Feedback Friday, you might be able to get a glimpse of him putting that together. Jason asks, would decrease in weather also be increased? No, so it's just the increase. So it's just all around a positive effect. I can't think of too much reason not to arm it, unless perhaps if you are confident enough in your prestige base and the catch rate that it has, if you feel like you're missing too many mice. That's it. It's not a horrible base. It does have a Grand Duke title requirement on it, I'm pretty sure. So it's still a decent base. Jacob posted the Thief Base. Well, there you go. Including Minotaur drop. No, just the district loot drop. So it'll help you collect this is good trivia. There are the Plates of Fealty. They're scrolls for the Scholar District. Fealty, Scholar, and I can't think of the last Zokor district. Fealty, Scholar, Tech, of course. The Tech power cores, because the hammer is the loot, the district leader loot drop. So it just helps with the kind of tier 1 district loot drops. So it'll help you kind of cash out a Zokor faster. You can buy Shuffler's Cubes with those as well. So it's kind of always an ongoing use for those. Tech cores, yes, unless I'm mistaken. It's all the tier 1 loot drops. So not the ones that the district leader drop, but the ones all the other mice drop. The music is opening. I don't know what you mean with that. Swift says, does it affect Nightshade Fungus for farming districts? No, just the district loot drop. So that's a fair point. That might be a little bit of a number crunch to kind of go back and add that to the farming. So it's just kind of those Zokor specific loot. Ariel says Plank runs journals. Actually, that is in a mailbag this week as well. So we'll get to that in a minute. And oil. Oil does drop in Zokor, but again, the Zokor, or the Thief Base for Zokor, just affects those tier 1 district loot drops. So those 3 items that the Zokor mice uniquely drop. Make shades in treasury. It should work in a treasury district. I'll make a note to just triple check that. I'm pretty sure we used it in the treasury district. Let me write that down. Actually, I'm a little excited as well. I have finally got a new webcam that I can put on the top of my external monitor, so I can, like, the chat's a little bigger. I can see my notes at the same time as the stream. which is kind of nice. That said, I feel like the majority of people in the world right now want a web camera, so it was slim pickings. It wasn't maybe what I would have picked out under normal circumstances. I'll scroll back up here. Relic Hunter. Season 8. So what else is there? There are new skins to find, as well as we typically add some new Gilded skins. If you've been watching Feedback Friday for a while, I'm pretty sure this one was drawn or illustrated by Jacob on a live stream, and it is for the Dragon Slayer cannon. I'm speaking from memory now. Let me triple check. I'm pretty sure it's the Dragon Slayer cannon. It's not one of the lower tier ballistas. Let me load up Relic Hunter Season 8 and just absolutely triple check here before I just start talking nonsense. Although, you know, maybe that wouldn't stop me from talking nonsense too much. All right, the Dragon Slayer cannon in Relic Hunter Season 8. It does indeed have a skin, the Gilded Geyser Draconic Trap skin. Cool. So there is a skin coming for that. It'll be added to the King's Arm / King's Cart for Gilded coins, along with all the other usual Gilded skins that already are out there. As well as poignant question in the chat from Janet there. Says, will there be skins for the new floating island traps? Yes. So, and I think too, Jacob illustrated that one on an art edition of Feedback Friday as well. It is for the Stinger trap. So that tier 2 law trap in the floating islands is getting an ancient jade themed skin. So kind of the outer hull is all that kind of jade looking kind of aesthetic that a lot of the other things to do with the Relic Hunter have. And yeah, it's a Stinger skin. So that's the tier 2 law trap. Probably the most accessible of the tier 2 floating island traps. Jonathan says, would definitely be cool if the base works in treasury runs. I agree. Although that's an interesting trade-off, actually, because when you're in the treasury run, you're looking for Molten Midas. At least I like to collect some of the unstable crystals he drops. I'm pretty sure he drops an unstable item. As well as just pretty good gold when you do the treasury run. So if you put it in heist mode and you get out twice as fast, you might be sacrificing some gold. So that's actually an interesting use to put it into thief mode and maybe try to stay in the treasury district for as long as you can. But it was interesting. While we're playtesting it, it kind of comes down to how good are you at going through the labyrinth. If you're really good and you can get back to Zokor pretty quickly, then I'm all about heist mode. I'm like, all right, just get me out of Zokor with the same amount of loot, and I'll get back there as soon as I can. Whereas if, I kind of struggle to go through the labyrinth, I'm a little bit slower, well then I want to make those limited number of hunts that I have in Zokor really count, and I go into thief mode, where I have a 50% chance of not losing stealth, so I can make every hunt, every hunt I took in the labyrinth, I can really make those count and spend more time in Zokor. But it's an interesting little choice. And finally, what is the last item here I have about Relic Hunter Season 8 is new interface to browse open maps belonging to friends and teammates. So open maps, those are nothing new. Right now you can put your map into open mode, which basically lets people request an invite to join your map. And hunters in various communities, you'll share a link to your map and people can request to join your map. So this is just one new kind of small interface to go, okay, all your friends and your teammates who have set their privacy controls to that at least, they'll appear in a listing where you can say, hey, look, I have 3 friends that have an open map. Maybe I'll request to join their map. We were looking at doing kind of almost like a matchmaking sort of feature, but unfortunately time constraints as well as kind of some technical challenges, we ended up scrapping that. It was just the nature of loading up data for thousands of maps presented some interesting technical challenges as well as some UI problems to kind of, well, when there's 2,000 maps in front of you, trying to find one that you're most interested in is potentially a lot of interface work that we didn't quite have time to pull off. Salim asks, will the trap library be retrofitted to any existing area? Well, I mean, keep the sentiment coming. That is often how, when we're looking at our backlog or idea bank, how we try and informally measure some enthusiasm. It's like, well, that comes up on Feedback Friday a lot. We see that on different groups or Discord, Facebook group, forums, Facebook page, that sort of thing. Right now, no plans. There's some kind of challenges there as well as areas age and just kind of making sure that interface you can manage all your traps well. Oh, I am cold. I had to make some hot tea. Ran out of coffee. I was trying to decide whether I had too much or not enough coffee this morning. But I had to make a hot tea as well. It's a little chilly in the lower floor of my house here. Ariel says, will you consider trick-or-treat mechanics for next year's Halloween? That might be a good segue as well. Open to kind of feedback on the Halloween event. That could have been a good topic to focus on for a little bit as well. I know there's been some sentiment as well, both from hunters as well as on the development team as well, kind of revisiting different, revamping Halloween a little bit. Kind of came down to time constraints a bit. We were definitely all hands on deck for the floating islands for the majority of the summer. So when the Halloween event came around, being able to give a fresh coat of paint or new rewards to the existing Halloween event, that kind of helped take the pressure off getting the floating islands ready in time. I miss doorbells as well. There's been some neat little idea stubs floating around here and there to kind of revisit that. There's a lot of nostalgia as well with the candy corn cheese and the ghoul gonzola, the trick-or-treating. So, I would like to explore that potentially next year. We'll see how the rest of the team feels and how Mouse Hunters feel as well. Alex says, what are your thoughts on making rare map dust available from the cartographer for 20 relics? It kind of indirectly is that. You can find it inside the scroll cases. That's a different scroll cases have different odds of finding rare map dust. So I don't know. I don't think it would be something we would directly do. But that said, rare map dust is also in the marketplace as well. So it's hopefully that's accessible enough. Zhang asks, something off topic, will there be new uses for Tatterskin patterns dropped from the Valor Rift at some point? That is kind of earmarked maybe for when we can finish Valor Rift treasure maps, is to add some new skins. And so just kind of increase a little bit of the demand for some of those tattered scraps now that more hunters have all the skins you can buy with that item. As well as a little bit a segue to the Great Winter Hunt. That is one adjustment we made to Golem drop tables, is removing those skins from the Valor Rift Golem drop table, just because I think that made the supply far outweigh the demand for those skins. So that'll be something we kind of address with the Golems, and then hopefully when we can finish the Valor Rift treasure maps, add some new skins for the tattered pieces as well. I think I got about 40% the way through before, okay, then my part of the floating islands came up, and I had not returned to Valor Rift treasure maps since. But that is a few of the devs have our kind of side project, or we call them flex milestones for flexible, but I think we just like to say flex for like this. We always put a arm wrestling emoji in the chat when we talk about them. But that's kind of my little side project when I find myself, on a Thursday and I have, hey, I'm kind of done everything I wanted to accomplish for the week. That said, that has not happened in several months, but when that does come up, I know, like, oh, hey, I got this side project on the go, so I'm going to go pick that up and chip away at it a little bit more. And a few of the devs all have those kind of side projects they go to when they feel a little light on tasks. Pillowcase was cool. Yeah, that was kind of neat as well for the Halloween event. Kind of had a nice Halloween vibe, whereas the spooky ghost ships, obviously, it's ghost ships, that has a kind of haunted ghost vibe that's very Halloween-esque. But maybe it's kind of missing some of that candy trick-or-treating. There's something about the nostalgia of kind of childhood that is entertaining, I think. Sandra asks, area-specific loot from ghost ships were great. Would it be coming back? That's something we're kind of shying away from a little bit. It kind of got to the point where a lot of the events became about kind of loot for existing areas, and ultimately it kind of ended up making it so that some of the areas, it was almost like you don't play them, you do events rather than going through and doing these adventures normally. So kind of mixed feedback, and it was kind of a little bit anticlimactic as well. So it's something we've kind of just relegated to the Great Winter Hunt to try to give each event its own unique identity. And so the Great Winter Hunt's that kind of loot pinata, that one time a year where it's almost like double or triple loot event going on, where you can kind of get area loot. Now the Lunar New Year has a similar vibe, but it's a little different, and you still have to go through the adventures as you normally would. But while you're going through them, you can get double or triple loot drops. So for Halloween, what we're going for was a good time to get gold with the Cursed Gold. I mean, check your inventory. It's probably starting to stockpile a little bit. As well as, especially if you've activated your spooky aura already, as well as just kind of, I was going to say old-fashioned. I don't know what the word I'm looking for is, but kind of more old-school mouse hunt events where there's some limited edition rewards to earn the event's not around for all that too long, so it's not this huge kind of departure from your normal hunting strategy, but it's a chance to pick up some cool items, whether it's more for collection purposes or it's an item that you think you'll be putting to good use, and then as well as some gold, because who can't use some gold as well. Slim says, I had fun with the maze. Yeah, I like that one as well. The cornfield led into the haunted manor, and then the pumpkin patch out back. It's going back a ways as well. Ariel says, will there be plans for new Warmonger Minotaur loot? That's something we're always kind of in the back of our minds when we're putting together an area, because it's a popular suggestion that comes up as well. And it's just kind of nice because it reinforces existing gameplay. It kind of brings breathes new life into old areas. That's why we don't want to force it. So when the right idea comes up, we can kind of move on it, but don't want to do it just for the sake of doing it. Could you make it simpler to reach the profile of non-friends trading with and inviting people is bothersome on the web and non-existent in the app? Well, you can put in their hunter ID to load their profile, but it kind of comes down to context a bit. Can Champions Fire go in the exceptional item rather than it being hat only? I'll jot that down as well, because we're looking through all the loot drop tables as well. Flex goal sounds cool. Yeah, there's the flex emoji. Yeah, we usually bust that out when we start talking about those flex milestones. Yes, to fire in the exceptional. Yeah, for sure. It is kind of a big daunting task, the Golem loot drop table. So in some ways, it's fortunate that it's a popular event that we'd be able to repeat for a few years. Because when you think about it, there are about 60 areas in the game. Now, granted, some are easier than others, but if you think, hey, it takes about a week to put together a drop table, play through it, go show it to somebody else, get feedback, play through it again. Okay, show it to more people, play test it, get feedback, iterate. It might take about a week to put together one of the more complex loot drop tables. So, I mean, that's 60 weeks of work to do them for all. That's over a year, right? So, but granted, grain of salt, some of them are a lot simpler than others. So it is kind of an opportunity every time we repeat the Golem event can kind of incorporate more feedback and kind of spend that week on that one drop table again. About a decade ago, I was about to take advantage of the complete and offer to get SB system. I'd like to publicly apologize for that. Well, hey, that's what it was there for. It is still around. You have to kind of know the link. So some of them weren't the most reliable, and kind of as the years have gone by, it's not exactly as popular of a kind of means of handing out items, because some of them, if you don't know what you're doing, you got to be a little careful doing that, which always kind of raised a little bit of concern of what are we kind of encouraging players to opt into. But that's it. It's there for the players that kind of know what it is and know what they're doing for it. Jonathan says there's no new mice in the Halloween event. Will there be new mice in the Great Winter Hunt? There will be one. So a lot of the events we're getting pretty dialed up in terms of quantity of mice, especially Halloween. So one thing that's been a little bit cumbersome with the maps is as we get a good number of Halloween mice, that it's a little bit hard to find or target a specific one you're looking for, whether it's a map or maybe a King's Crown, that sort of thing, or just unlock the silhouette for the first time. And so the Great Winter Hunt, it's been good, has the decoration mechanic where you can decorate the HUD, whether it's toys, winter sports, that sort of thing, and mice of that theme are now in the encounter pool. And that kind of helps when, if you have 60 mice, then even if you give them all the exact same encounter rate, that's under 2%, right? So they all start to feel rare. So Halloween could kind of use a little bit of that as well. So, there's a few different approaches maybe we could consider, but if we kind of reimagine the event at one point, that might be something that we'll keep in mind for sure. What's your plan for the next Rift area? Nothing formal. I think we're on a little bit of a break from the Rifts to explore some other concepts. I mean, no guarantees. Who knows? If a really great Rift idea came up, we'd probably pursue it. Informally speaking, probably the Tribal Isles Rift would be the next one. I can't think of another region. We're tending to go in the same order as the adventure book in terms of how you normally progress through the canonical story. When you're going through the Rift storyline, kind of progress in the same order as well. And the Tribal Isles being such a big area, that's would probably be kind of a large undertaking for the Rift, unless there's kind of a nice, simple, and creative idea that makes it work nicely. Stars ask, any plans to bring in new players? This year we have done more advertising than usual, so and it's been beneficial. I think that we've seen an uptick in new players, as well as we're trying to kind of carve out some more time, reimagine sort of how the team's organized and the resources we have to even kind of go back and continue our ongoing efforts to revamp some of the earlier game areas. We'll shift, so I see a few questions coming up as well, so we'll shift over to the player mailbag, and thank you for, thanks goes out to Michelle for reaching out, putting together a group that included some of the organizers of the larger community groups in the game to try to kind of get a mailbag ahead of time for Feedback Friday. So I went through there, picked out 3 of the questions, and one was, has the encounter rate of the Terrified Adventurer been changed? And so, I mean, simple answer is no. That's definitely part of the motivation of putting together patch notes, were to help keep players informed, and just in the sake of transparency of, when we do kind of a change that wouldn't necessarily warrant a whole news post, right? Like a 1-sentence news post type of thing. It can be a sentence in the patch notes there. So, I mean, keep an eye on the patch notes. That's exactly the type of thing that we'd want to include as a patch note item. But for sure, if anything, it would be nice if we had time to go back to various areas and make adjustments based on feedback. But that said, I don't see reducing the encounter rate of the Terrified Adventure something that would be very welcomed, or I haven't got any suggestions to do so. So definitely not. Haven't touched that. As well as somebody else asking a little bit earlier about plans for more plank run pages. And yeah, they're definitely a little bit outdated at this point, and just interesting thinking back to kind of the history of plank run pages. I think the first time they were introduced was when Feroma was released, which was quite some time ago. And the original inspiration or intention behind them was kind of these lore drops that you'd get to help you out with strategy or uncover kind of details that otherwise aren't obvious in the game. So that was kind of the original idea behind them. That's why some of the early ones, they literally have crafting recipes right on them, because at the time, how else would you figure out how to craft something? And as well as kind of some of the really low-level ones, like Narnia and the Meadow, were more about just general hunting, like, hey, different cheese attracting different mice, and a little bit of foreshadowing of what's to come. That said, we've kind of found more modern ways of tackling that particular sort of problem, or addressing that, like area-specific HUDs, the recipe book. Now you can craft straight from the HUD, so it isn't kind of putting things together randomly on the crafting table and hoping it works out right, or having to read the descriptions of 10 different items to try to piece something together, unless it's something thematically appropriate for that level of mystery. And so I think, and the sentiment on the team, and I think hunters kind of feel the same, as they're better off as kind of lore-based collectibles. And so I think it would come to somebody putting together a project to overhaul that and really reinforce them as what they're meant to be there, and flesh that thing out. So, no immediate plans to do that, but that's kind of in the idea bank of a project we'd like to get to, time permitting, would be to reimagine Plank Run's pages entirely. Jason reiterating there, confirming the decoration classes from a few years back on Great Winter Hunt to divide up the mouse pools was a fantastic idea. Meet my Golem army, says Salim. I thought Jacob said something about reworking Tribal Isles. Well, that's the eventual goal. I mean, if we had, sometimes I wish we could like pause time, do a bunch of work, snap our fingers, unpause time, and it's all done overnight, sort of thing. But the eventual goal would be to revisit every area in the game that currently does not have a heads-up display and give it a little bit of a refresher. Now, some areas could use refreshed gameplay. Some of them are kind of a little bit outdated. They definitely feel kind of 12 years old at this point. Whereas others are pretty good. They're loot-based kind of areas that are fun and definitely still popular and have a special place in Hunter's heart, but they could definitely use a heads-up display to help with some of the inventory management, track where you are, where you're going, keep a tab on some of your short versus long-term goals in the area. And the Tribal Isles is one that could definitely benefit from a HUD. There's a lot of resources going on. even the whole kind of color theory pepper plant thing, kind of without some explanation, is a little bit, whoa, what am I doing here? Chong asks, who would want to reduce the encounter rate for the Terrified Adventure? I agree. I don't. I think that would be a little bit nuts to go and drop that. Especially, it wouldn't be in line either with the kind of the prestige base. So when we uncovered, hey, look, there's a problem going on behind the scenes. The prestige base currently is giving you two luck for every terrified adventure. Total eclipse floor reached instead of just the intended one. So it's kind of, although the interface was saying you were getting this much luck and power, behind the scenes you were actually getting more. And so, there's a few different avenues we could have gone. We could have just kind of like, ooh, fix that bug and, hush, hush, don't tell anybody that this was broken. But that's just not our philosophy. We're kind of, that's, like I said, with patch notes, the interest is being as transparent as possible to help us make good decisions that players are going to find fun. And so part of the decision-making process there was, well, it's been like this for a while. Even the Rift Walker and Rift Stalker set bonus have been affected by that bug. And now with the prestige base, people have been able to do a big prestige push with that prestige base at those kind of increased stat levels. And it certainly wasn't an insignificant difference. So to kind of correct that and say, well, those who come after them, you'll never be able to do as good of a prestige run, basically, because your base will never be that good. Didn't fit in line. And so you can kind of think similar with the Terrified Adventure, like decreasing the encounter rate of the Terrified Adventure. At one point, that's the main bottleneck you face to kind of keep pushing up. So if we were to decrease that, that would be massively unfair to anyone who would come after those who've already done a big prestige push. Lamb says, could you consider slightly increasing the attraction rate for the Chrono, Aether, Desert Nomad? It'd be easier to get a crown collection on those difficult attracting mice. I don't think so, because it's just that, right? They're difficult mice. And in MouseHunt, your most valuable resource is time. And so that's often what creates a challenge, is where do you spend that, or your most valuable resource being time. How do you spend that time? And that's what creates some difficulty. That said, for things that are kind of major milestones that you need to reach to continue to progress, we try not to gate that behind too much of those really low encounter rate mice. The mice you've listed there are pretty much kind of above and beyond accomplishments. So you can almost think, there's nothing saying you need to earn the crown for that. And I think the reason why they're such prestigious crowns is that because those mice are tough to find. And so, hopefully, because that's a goal you set for yourself, it's not too frustrating, because it's not a goal that's directly put in front of you that you're expected, hey, you have to do this or you can't do the next goal. They are very much like, hey, I'm choosing to go and get a crown for that mouse. And it is above and beyond accomplishment for the sake of accomplishment. So I think they're in pretty good areas. Kendall says, please make the trap loader a thing for all game areas. Yeah, it is certainly nice. Final Heart says, going to ask again if Terrified Adventures are supposed to be rare the higher up you go. That's what people are experiencing when they think the encounter rate got lowered. I think it's just a lot more people in the Valor Rift and a lot more interested in doing a big push. And so, it's kind of natural psychology when you're feel like you're in a scenario and you're doing everything you can, and the result that you're really excited about isn't the result that's happening. You tend to look for something to kind of say, well, there's got to be a reason for this. But that's just kind of randomness. The only thing that would be affecting the encounter of the Terrified Adventure as you go higher, but I mean that stops once the third prestige mouse is unlocked, is adding more champions in the encounter pool, but that eventually plateaus. So I mean that is going to diminish the encounter rate of the Terrified Adventure slightly, because more mice are getting added to the pool without taking any out. But that said, we have not touched any of that. I don't know if we touched it during the Valor Rift patch. I don't think so off the top of my head, but I don't think it's been touched since release. Definitely hasn't been touched since we did the follow-up patch. That came, I think, about 2 weeks later, maybe 3. Johnson says, how about bait limiter options? That has been pitched around here and there as well. I think that would tie in with a trap library. If we ever got there, I think that might be the ideal solution to that. Things like, hey, when I reach a end of a hallway in the labyrinth, my trap library, if I could configure it to disarm my bait, switch to Gouda, do something like that, that would be pretty neat. But it's also a big undertaking, right? The scope of that, we'd have to go through every single area in the game. There's a lot of interface work that would also have to go into like how are you configuring all those very specific little things. So I guess that is an argument for having kind of, hey, I want to arm 7 pieces of my 100 bait in my inventory so that my bait disarms after 7 hunts. It would be a simpler way to implement that. So anyway, something still kicking around the idea bank. The last question here I had in the mailbag as well was a suggestion, actually. And probably, I think there were about 20 or 30 items in the mailbag, and I'm going to say 25 of them were suggestions instead of questions. But one suggestion was to allow various charms to be converted into their Rift counterparts, which does, on the surface level, that does sound pretty neat suggestion. Something like you take an Ultimate Power Charm and you upgrade it into an Ultimate Rift Power Charm. It's just kind of where we are at now and where the economy of those charms are sitting. That might be hard to go back and retroactively do that, but if we had a time machine, that would be kind of nice to go back and give that some thought and tie everything together all at once. But alas, in kind of continual development style, games charms certainly came out years before the first Rift ever came out. So there's kind of some precedent there. And it'd be kind of hard to work out all the details of that system. So I think things would kind of stay how they are. Ariel says, speaking of collection, can we reobtain items that are used to buy other items like the damaged Oculus and Warden Stones? I mean, kind of open to feedback. It's tough. I feel like it's a tough spot because you can't please anybody. Kind of our philosophy there is if it has no use afterwards and it's not in the collectible category, then it's not sort of meant to be collected and you'll never know it's missing. So it kind of cleans up the inventory for those hunters who kind of don't want to see all that stuff piling up. So kind of going forward, probably not. Kind of continue to do things where you combine them into the thing, and that's kind of where they are. So specifically the Warden Stones, those are in your ship now. So that's why they're not in your inventory, because you needed them in the hull of your ship to be able to approach the floating islands. Otherwise the weather would just knock you straight off course and you'd never get there. So it's a little weird if they're in your inventory, but they're meant to be on that ship in your HUD. So it kind of helps make that distinction there. Yonel asks, is the Adorned Jewel a loot in the Floating Islands Great Winter Hunt event? A little too soon to say. We're still kind of workshopping the Winter Hunt to Floating Islands tables. We're taking a closer look too at the glass in the ore. I think there'll probably be some modest amounts. No guarantees there, but still have to kind of play test it. But just kind of looking at how it was set up with the different Oculus levels, I think it will probably work out. And this is actually kind of nice that I am able to use a monitor now, because these spreadsheets are probably the most expansive use of monitor space there is. But yeah, kind of workshopping that, hoping to kind of firm up the first draft of that this afternoon, actually. But seems like time is flying these days. I feel like just yesterday it was March, and here we are in November. But currently there are 30 items on that drop table, ranging from the basic, the valuable, the rare. Oh, actually, no, that's a lie. 28. 2 of them just hadn't finished the hat table yet. So anything ranging from gold, ancient charms, cloud curd, tarnished charms, chrome charm, sky ore, sky glass, cyclone stones, super ancient, extreme ancient, cloud cheesecake, bottled wind, dragonbane, ultimate ancient, rainbow charms, corsair's curd, magic essence, ultimate power, ultimate luck, ultimate lucky, power charm, ember charm, low altitude treasure trove, high altitude treasure trove, and then yeah, we're kind of in the space of workshopping, so definitely need to play test, but even potentially considering high altitude loot drops, but that might be a little weird because it may imbalance loot drops, and it is takes a long time to balance them back out. The jewel is currently in there, kind of being workshop. It might work out. Extreme and super Dragonbane charms as well. So kind of a little bit of a pool of items, but we're still kind of massaging those around, figuring out quantities, rarities, and seeing if anything needs to not be on that table. Swift says, are the dirigible skins supposed to be in special instead of collectibles? Yes, they are not collectibles. They are cosmetics. So in the same way as trap skins are not collectibles, they are kind of as considered a cosmetic item, so they go into special. Ryan says, it is correct, by the way. Terrified Adventurer drops as you go up from 18 to 10% in the second 8 floors. Eventually, from level 25 onwards, it's 6.68%-ish. I like how it's like, approximately 8.68%. I'm just, roughly speaking, to 2 decimal points of precision on a percentage. But yeah, if I recall correctly, that does sound right, is that as you go up, more mice get added, right? There are 3 mice that are kind of the prestige mice. I can't, off the top of my head, I can't remember the name of them, but when you reach certain floors, they get added to the pool. And the encounter rate of the champions as well increases as you go up, but I think that eventually caps at a point where now, okay, all the encounter rates aren't going to change at all as you keep going up. That said, it has been the exact same way it has been since release, or at least since the first patch that came out, 2 or 3 weeks after. Off the top of my head, I don't remember the timeline when that came out, but we definitely have not touched anything there since. Chunk says, I'm doing a prestige-based push and achieving Total Eclipse 15 and beyond in itself is sort of an achievement. Yeah, that's definitely a pretty good score you're putting up. Really shiny precious gold, not so precious anymore. Kind of a charm that used. Well, this to the Minotaur. It says registered retirement saving plan gold, but yeah, for sure that has been kind of reusing items from old areas or existing areas has been kind of on the idea bank for a while. Will terrifying maps and lockbox cheese make a return? I'm getting tongue-tied here. Actually, that was a suggestion that came in during Halloween feedback and part of our process as well. So because events repeat themselves, at least in some capacity, even if we reimagine it, a lot of times feedback from the previous year is applicable to the next year. So already in kind of our project management software where we organize tasks and delegate work and all that stuff, we already have our milestone for Halloween 2021, and kind of as suggestions, feedback, input comes up, we create tasks in there, and it's just a nice reminder when we're going to put together that event, as we're kind of brainstorming and putting together the design docs and all the specifications that go with putting together an event. They're right there, and it's just the perfect reminder to read through all of last year's feedback before we even start the next event, and incorporating maybe a different tier of cheese is in there, so it's something we'll revisit when the time comes, as well as kind of targeting different mice. And those kind of go hand in hand, where that might work out well if we kind of use some of the old Halloween cheeses as ways. Well, if you're looking for a specific mouse, then there's a way to get this cheese, and maybe you gotta jump through some hoops to get that cheese, but when you arm it, you're more likely to get that mouse you're looking for, whether it's a map, a king's crown, or something like that. So it adds a little bit of agency, a little bit of autonomy. When you're trying to achieve something, there's at least some choice you can make to help affect the RNG of encountering a specific mouse. Ryan says, I think that's too excessive. People could be starting floating downs with Oculus 3 already by the looks of it. That's something we're going to be kind of playtesting, because that's kind of the concern we have as well. And it's kind of why you don't get tower sigils or secrets from the Valor Rift golems, or Howlite or Bloodstone from the Fort Rocks golems, is that it kind of circumvents the adventure a little bit. So we want to enhance the journey, but not sort of give the destination, if that makes sense, because it's kind of anticlimactic, right? Like you show up and there's this epic fun adventure in front of you, and you're like, oh wait, I'm done. And it's kind of a little bit weird. Swift says journal themes are considered collectibles, though, and that is a little bit of a relic of just kind of old systems in play. If we kind of go back, I don't think they would be collectibles without really reimagining the collectibles interface. And it's kind of a legacy item issue of where we had to specific items need to be kind of in a specific classification to get them to work correctly, whereas kind of we've since been able to come up with more creative solutions for that. Alex says, spoilers, is there a chance of Richard 100% trove drops corresponding to the island you're on? I think all has been discovered with Richard. No, Richard drops a trove and drops a low or a high altitude trove. But I don't think there's any correlation between the island you're on when you encounter Richard. Ashley says, I'd rather have maps with stuff like wind and cloud curds in the chests than golems giving importance supposed to hunt for Oculus loots. Good feedback. Ryan says, yes, I'd rather get lots of wind cyclones, those high-powered charms, like how Valor Rift was set up. I think Orglass in the common slot is maybe workable due to how little you get each time. Actually, currently it is in the valuable slot, which is interesting. Kind of the way the golems work is that because the rare, you just keep getting more rare slot or exceptional slots added on the back. You end up getting like more of the exceptional loot, whereas because the other ones are limited to 2 slots, so it's almost interesting. It's where it's you can kind of throttle how much the golems are going to bring back that way. Daniel says, will the projector mechanic overhaul? No plans to do it. It's a bit mixed feedback on that and tying sort of mouse collection and progression to treasure maps specifically instead of making them sort of optional cooperative or community gameplay. So no plans for new projectors and no plans to overhaul the existing projectors. Who knows what the future holds, but at the moment, nothing like that. Final Heart says, yeah, Glass or in Golem feels like it'll allow people to just pay to skip too much of the early floating islands. That is definitely the concern. Yeah, as part of going through an area is part of the fun is in the journey more than the destination. So it's something we're kind of play testing to get a feel for. So the feedback is helpful. But Jewel high altitude, low altitude feel a bit unfair, honestly. We're going to kind of keep an eye on that. One concern I have with a Jewel from the Golems is because there's a pretty big time commitment per Jewel is they would have to be fairly rare to make sense in the Golem, and that might be a little bit too kind of streaky jackpot where it makes a few people happy to find one, but the majority will never find one. So it's kind of like, well, why is it even in there? Our kind of philosophy with the Golems is we look at sending out 2 Golems, and we try to make that sort of, on par, maybe twice as good as if you would be hunting in the area normally. So again, kind of going back to the most valuable resource in the game being time. So when you're spending time in the winter hunt, if it's kind of comparable to if you were spending that time in that area, sort of thing. So it says, much less vital to progress than Sigil, Secrets, and Valor Rift. To a degree, right? It's a much more impactful. Skipping from Oculus level 1 to 2 saves a couple days, I think. But yeah, it would come down to just how much glass and ore you're getting. It's a pretty long event as well, so it's kind of something we're going to be keeping a close eye on. Getting 1 glass over in a slot would also feel very bad. Yeah, I think it would have to be more. But that's an interesting thing as well that makes it difficult to put that in a good spot is when you're brand new to the area, 1 ore or glass feels, well, probably 1 doesn't feel all that great, but a low quantity is valuable. But then once you reach a higher level Oculus, all of a sudden it's like, well, I can really rake this stuff in with barely even trying. So, a small amount feels a little bit anticlimactic. And so, that's a part where the Golems aren't set up the same way the floating islands are set up. So it's kind of tricky to put that reward structure into the Golems because they don't have that same sort of build-up. Let's drop more pirate card. John says, if it can be looted with or people can just send a few hundred high-level Golems to floating islands. I don't know if the word just in front of that is too applicable. I mean, that's a big time commitment, similar to just going to the floating islands and spending a lot of time there as well. So it comes down to variety more than I would think it would be a time savings. Just pirate seals. I don't, right now we don't have pirate seals in there. Because again, it kind of feels more like the destination more than the journey there. But some Corsair's curd in small amounts could potentially make sense. But for sure, they're a challenging one to put together. Definitely stocking them up with a lot of the charms, because floating islands is a space where you definitely get to put your charms to good use there. There are some tough mice. A few islands where you really want to make your hunts count. Bram asks, I remember there being plans for sniper slots for treasure maps. Is that going to be added, or has the idea been abolished? I wouldn't say completely abolished, but no short-term plans to work on that. It'd be quite the big undertaking, and we'd have to make sure we do it a better job than the community's already doing at it. Daniel asks, are you at home? Are you in your home or HitGrab office? I am at home. Any new Trapsmith items during the Great Winter Hunt? Yes. So there will be some new reward items to earn during the Great Winter Hunt. Still kind of workshopping them a little bit, but it might be neat to get a few impressions. Let me pull up the sheet here. Winter Hunt 2020. So a Hydro Trap that might have a special effect against pirates, but otherwise be kind of a cool trap for mid-game players. A base that might potentially do something to consume some more elixir but produce sigils in return. Something to give a bit of a niche bonus to the slack traps. And still kind of workshopping the other one a little bit. And actually, I was thinking too, I could have shown some of the Relic Hunter stuff here. Cool. I'm not in the right area for this Queso Geyser map. And actually, yeah, I'm not set up to demo this whatsoever. I should have done a little setup ahead of time here. But it should look familiar. We're still kind of pulling this together a little bit. Kind of finalizing everything. Going to sign off on everything this afternoon. But basically, just kind of a small interface to kind of help find open maps that your friends or teammates have set up. And so you can kind of opt into that behavior. And then when you go here, you could kind of browse. Well, okay, cool. There's, my team has some open maps, or my friends. I got a couple hundred friends, and a few of them are on open maps. Maybe I want to jump on, help them out if I'm interested in that type of map they're working on. I have lost the chat. It's disappeared. Ultimate charms for King's credits? Probably not. What about New Year? Will add on like Great Winter Hunt like previous? Yes. Basically, the golems are returning in very similar capacity as they have in years past. It has been a popular event. So you can expect a very similar sort of layout with a few kind of new rewards to earn, that sort of thing. Anything you could share about upcoming law areas? So at the moment, kind of have everything we're actively working on. That said, we are looking to pull together some ideas in the next week to kind of get the ball rolling on what's coming next. So I don't kind of have a more extended roadmap that would go past event season. To be honest, we don't know what we're doing after this spring egg hunt. So that is 4, 5, 6 months out. So we kind of know what we're doing for the next 6 months. But after that is still up in the air. So kind of we'll share a little bit more when we get there. Which will end things off with this week's trivia question, and I got a little creative here, which means there's a likelihood that I'm wrong, as so frequently seems to happen during the trivia. I have the wrong answer, so we'll see. The Quar, thank you, Chong. It's the question, answer, reward. So the question is, and I think I worded this very awkwardly, in which regions can the Relic Hunter mouse appear in all regions within the region? I don't think that's how you should word this question whatsoever, but basically think of all the regions in the game. Which regions in the game, when you look at the locations, the Relic Hunter could potentially appear in all those areas within that region. 12 is incorrect. I forget the answer. This is bad. I should have looked at the answer again. Do I have it written down? No, I didn't even write down the answer. Uh-oh. I gotta do this from memory, otherwise I'm gonna reveal the answer on the screen. I should set up I should change the studio mode so I can look at it without streaming it. Feroma, Valor, Mopai, Hollow Heights, Narnia. I think Valor is correct. I'm going to work this out from memory here. I think a Swift got it right. A Valor. It is the region of Valor, Whisker Woods, and Bristle Woods. Yes, that sounds right to me. Those are the regions in which, hey, all right, I remembered correctly. So yes, when you look at those areas, or those regions, Valor has the King's Arms, Tournament Hall, King's Gauntlet. Those are all potential areas where the Relic Hunter can show up. Obviously not simultaneously, it can only be in one area at a time. Whisker Woods has Calm Clearing, Great Gnarled Tree, and the Lagoon. And those are all three areas that all those areas the Relic Hunter could potentially appear in. And last but not least was Bristle Woods. Yes, I am looking at the travel map on my other monitor here. Is the Catacombs, Forbidden Grove, and the Acolyte Realm. And the Relic Hunter can appear in all those locations. And that means, hey, the whole region contains potential Relic Hunter spots. Does anyone think I'm wrong, though? Did I miss a region? I got a little too I got too cute with this question. I don't know. Salt mine, yeah, in the salt mine region as well. And I will paste this in the chat as well. Let me see here to make it easier to click. All those regions have 3 areas. That's probably why it worked out that way, because they're smaller regions. And they're also kind of regions that don't have a whole lot of sort of special game mechanics going on. They're primarily loot-based ones where originally anyway, the Relic Hunter wouldn't feel sort of, in the way, if I can air quote that. Whereas now, though, the Relic Hunter is a bonus mouse, so really, it's much more open to putting anywhere. I miss the smalt mines. Don't we all? Thanks for the ancient relics. Something to help you out in this coming Relic Hunter season. Start up some new maps. You can track down the Relic Hunter to get a Relic Hunter map to find those Season 8 rewards upcoming. Or you can spend them in a cartographer for a area-specific map to put them to use for a little bit of a boost for whatever you happen to be working on at the moment. You received 3 ancient relics from Larry the Knight. Where is he getting those relics from? And Final Heart asks, any plans on showing a log of logs? Would be nice to have a longer history. At the moment, I agree that would be nice, but yeah, no plans. The way it's set up, that's not kind of an easy ask. It would require a big kind of technical project be taken on to do that. Basically, when that happens, kind of store a flag. Hey, have you not got a log in a while? Cool, you have. Generate the log, write it to your journal, then forget that thing ever exists. So it would need a little bit of TLC to get that going a little bit smoother. Yeah, last 36-hour log stay invisible until the next one. Yeah, unfortunately, the way it just kind of piggies back on the journal system, and your journals kind of slowly get deleted as they go, just because that is actually one of the largest hard drive consumptions in the game is Hunter's journals. So they get pruned regularly to kind of keep the gigabytes down on the old hard drive there. Well, I suppose then we should wrap things up as well. Vincent asks, will we get better places to farm ultimate charms? I mean, probably not. Every once in a while, one of the harder to catch mice, when they feel like they need a loot drop table, gets thrown in there, and there's a potential little special jackpot loot drop. But for the most part, ultimate charms are a little few and far between. Are the global catch stats ever coming back? With a great heavy heart, I read that. I would certainly love for them to come back as well. Yeah, it's been a challenge, but it's good to hear kind of feedback, sentiments. It helps us kind of prioritize things of our never-ending backlog of work to get done. We're always kind of picking our battles of, okay, what do we accomplish next? And that's one that I particularly miss. Unfortunately, it's not a small ask. It's at the point where it can't be fixed. It needs to be rebuilt. So kind of think of it as maintaining a car. You can keep replacing parts on the car, but eventually it gets to the point where, like, listen, this thing's got no more life in it. You need a new car. And we're at the point with the mouse stats, being a kind of a decade-old approach to stats, and now with millions and millions and millions of stats going on, that is not a good way to store the stats anymore. So that needs to be reimagined. Sally says, will Feed Bake Friday ever come back post-COVID anyway? Well, potentially, yeah. There's a few challenges with it, especially right now, obviously. But, keep it in mind. Kind of keep suggesting it there, and maybe one day we can revisit the tradition. Vincent says, thoughts, no nerfing prestige base to make floating island base viable. Assume you mean the Adorned Jewel base that's sold in the floating islands. That's basically there if you have not done the Valor Rift at all and you're lacking a prestige base. You could still jump in and have kind of an appropriate base to take on the area. That's similar to how you don't use the wooden base with target. Well, you might pull that out in niche circumstances. You don't use the explosive base anymore, right? Like, it's done. Most Deathbot as well, like, I'm not going to use this anymore. I got better stuff. That's the same thing. So, I understand it came out chronologically speaking, in a release that came out after the Valor Rift, and tend to be areas as they come out, better stuff gets introduced with it. But that's kind of there as a little stopgap for players who have not done the Valor Rift. They at least have some base that's kind of can at least hold a candle to the mighty prestige base if they're not interested in charging that thing up to take on the floating islands. So by all means, if you have a good prestige base, treat that thing like it was the explosive base. It's not for you. Ryan says, sorry if it's already been answered, might have missed it. Will explosive crackers be in the snowball showdown? Well, I'll have you know, explosive crackers will no longer be part of the Great Winter Hunt this year. Well, we can do a bigger preview there. Now, a similar item that you use that your golems are returning with, off the top of my head, I don't know. So I'm just not going to completely misspeak. I can't even remember if they were in the snowball showdown last year, to be honest. So we haven't got to the portion of the Great Winter Hunt where we're revising snowball showdown rewards or taking a look at that. We're still kind of working on the main progression loop, getting the HUD up and running, implementing the new narrative, the new story look and feel. But I think we'll do a little more of a sneak peek at the Great Winter Hunt when it gets a little bit closer. I meant the thing to go through the 10 layers. Yeah, I know. I'm just saying we've changed up the story a little bit. And so the golems no longer return with the crackers. Whether that's similar sort of item that you need to... actually, you're not busting up layers. That was why we had to find a new item to use there. You're not blowing anything up or destroying an evil plan anymore. You're kind of bringing joy to the kingdom. So it's a little bit more uplifting, celebratory, where the golems come back with something to make people in the kingdom happier, rather than completely thwart. Well, I guess you're still thwarting the villain, the protagonist, but it's more constructive than destructive path to your destination. I saved an explosive cracker for collection. They are removed from your inventory before the Great Winter Hunt, though. So, and actually, the item is being, from a technical standpoint, the cracker is still the same item, but it's renamed, has a new image, has a new description. So, technically speaking, it is the same item as far as the code's concerned, but player facing, it'll look like a different item. Similar to the Carl Present Drive, a little bit like the year we did the rocket-powered sleigh that you would take flight in and spread joy. But again, very similar feel, though. You're kind of going through the exact same process. It just has a different story, different narrative, and different feel to it to kind of keep things fresh so it doesn't feel exactly the same as last year. 2020 needs more joy. I agree. So we'll do our part with the Great Winter Hunt to be spreading joy throughout the Kingdom of Narnia at a time where I think we could all use a few more smiles on our face. Return of the Christmas Cracker Trap. I think that one was limited edition, if I'm not mistaken. All right, well, thank you so much for joining me, Hunters. I'm pretty sure Jacob will be joining you next week, so I'll probably see you 2 weeks from now. Until then, happy hunting, and I'll see you next time.
You're a trap, don't seem to mind it. You attract me, I'm a mouse, you're a cat. I don't seem to mind it. Soft and furry, oh, and just when I think I'm safe, snap. Turns out I'm never safe, snap. Just when you think you're safe, snap. I come back. You don't seem to mind it, but I'm a fool. Broke my back. You don't seem to mind it, 'cause you're so cool. And just when I think I'm safe, snap. Turns out I'm never safe, snap. Ooh. And just when you think you're safe, snap. Turns out